This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV, it's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
So good, so good, so good.
Get ready, because it's time to save at your Nordstrom Rack store. Now through February 23rd, take an extra 40% off red tag clearance boots, jackets, and sweaters. We're talking the best cold weather styles from Vince, Cole Haan, Sam Edelman, and more. All on sale for even less. All sales final. You never know what you'll find, but you know it's gonna be so good. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast from Dallas, Texas. I've got Dave Valentine, and he is a CRO, which we're going to hear all about, but he helps customers get more leads. He helps them with their digital advertising, get more sales, and he helps clients and customers with these questions and problems. So if you struggle with any of those or want to get more information, Dave's your man, and I'm really happy to have him on. So Dave, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Chris. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. Briefly introduce yourself and we'll dive into the conversation.
Yeah. My name's Dave Valentine. I'm a serial entrepreneur and business owner. Owned 11 different companies, had 9 different exits. My background and specialty is in marketing and sales. And as the chief revenue officer at the media group that I'm a part of, we help companies big and small, some that you've heard of for sure, and a bunch that you haven't as well, grow their revenue and increase their sales online and lead generation and all that sort of thing through digital advertising and search engine optimization.
Yeah. And we'll dive right into the conversation. And so first thing is, a lot of people, they've told me that they hired a Facebook ad or Instagram ad and their digital ads aren't working. And why is that?
Yeah, most of the time it's because I like to say, Chris, anyone can be a professional marketer. They can just decide, I'm a professional social media advertiser or whatever. The reality is, just like in baseball, you've got single A baseball players. When they file taxes, it says professional baseball player on their taxes. So do the people in the major leagues, right? It's a different product. It's a different experience. And there are a lot of people out there that are playing single A marketing. And a lot of times when they're not getting results, it's because there's no sophistication to their advertising, right? So some of the things that listeners can do right now to make their social advertising better, this is a strategy that we use for every single one of our clients. It works really well. Run ads to grow your followers. Could be on any social media platform. And then retarget those followers with ads for your products and services. It sounds stupid, but it's really effective. So if someone's following you on Instagram, let's say, they're actually 6.8 times more likely to purchase from you if you show them an ad than someone that's never followed you before or hasn't heard of you. So it's really about cultivating an audience, a community, and then advertising to them. That's a great strategy. A lot of people lack that strategy and the forethought to go do something like that. The other thing that I see too, Chris, is that there are a lot of ad buyers out there that what they do is they are really technical, meaning they understand the platform. But again, that strategy of what psychologically makes someone want to make a purchase isn't there. And so it's about creating campaigns that psychologically hook customers and clients with your messaging, with your video or your visual asset, and then also understanding that technical side. When you have all that together, you get great results.
Yeah. And yeah, you're talking about sophistication. The other question is, which ad platforms are worth testing for different types of e-commerce brands?
Yeah, so for e-com and for lead generation, it really just depends, Chris. Each brand is different, right? Let's use some for instances. We've got a chocolate client, and they advertise across Meta and Google right now. Those are their 2 main platforms. They get really great return on ad spend, or the shorthand of that is ROAS, on those 2 platforms. I think right now we're averaging a 5.5 ROAS on Meta and a 3.5 on AdWords, purely because there's a lot of competition in that space there. That makes sense for a product that's as cheap as $25, and the most expensive product they have is $90. For another product, though, it may make more sense to advertise If it's cheaper, it may make more sense to have them advertise on Amazon or Walmart Marketplace. On those particular marketplaces, people are going there to shop. That's why they're there. So you can actually get a cost per acquisition that's a lot lower. So where it might be $20, let's say on Facebook, or if you're using that little retargeting play that I mentioned earlier, it may be as little as a few bucks. On Amazon, you'll get a conversion for $2, $1.50. So if you're trying to find a good spot for margins, that can be a better place. Amazon does take a cut of every product that's sold, so you have to figure that out as well. Same with Walmart, but it can be a potential win for you in those spaces. So really, it's just trying to figure out who's your ideal customer persona and where do they hang out. So one of the things we're doing with that chocolate company, for instance, in May is Mother's Day. That's a big sale time for them. We're actually going to be exploring advertising on Pinterest, and Reddit's an interesting spot because it's actually disproportionately valued by Google at this point in their algorithm. So Reddit threads are showing up at the top of Google searches instead of other platforms. Really fascinating update. And so advertising on Reddit can be a great way to drive new customer acquisition. Why? People are showing up to those places and talking about the things that you're selling anyway, and then you can target them in those places.
And yeah, fascinating. Yeah, I've heard of people doing advertising through Reddit, which was really, and it sounds like I'm always interested in the platforms that the greatest. The other question I have for you is when should a thought leader or entrepreneur go from building organic and generating sales organically versus going through ads?
If you're client based and you have your first 10 clients, start using ads. You don't have to have them all at the same time, by the way. You could just get 10 new clients. The reason why I say that is you want to understand what works in your messaging process to be able to sell again. And so that messaging piece is so vital. And on the product side of things, you may kick it off by running paid ads. I had a good friend, lives in Fort Worth, and for years and years, he was trying to sell his product organically, Chris. And then this crazy thing happened during the pandemic where he was like, I can't go network. I can't, and he has like a physical product. I can do some of the organic stuff still. Let me just try something that Dave's been telling me to do for years. He started spending money on Facebook. And literally, Chris, he started spending $20 a day. That was it. Long story short, that same person, 2025, he's now spending a couple $1 million a year on digital advertising, and he's making millions and millions of dollars. He just scaled it up over time. People underestimate what's possible. And he was about ready to just sell it, the company. He almost sold it to me. I almost bought it. And it's just taking a leap sometimes, using that information that you get, the data back, and then doubling down on the things that work and going from there.
Interesting. What major shifts have you observed in e-commerce advertising over the past year and a half and that are impacting brands' need to approach their paid media strategy?
Omnichannel is no longer an option. So you can start out on one channel, Facebook, Instagram, Google, whatever that is, but you're going to have to move pretty quickly to hitting people in more spots. Why? There's more noise. There's more noise than ever before. And so what it's taking now for someone to make a purchase across the board, this is an average. This is not a hard and fast number. It's 4 different platforms. They need to see you in 4 different locations before they go make a purchase from you. So you have to expand beyond whatever channels you're on right now. And it's why we're taking clients, that chocolate company as an example, we're taking them from Meta and Google to Pinterest and Reddit as well. We're trying to find new channels to advertise, getting them on Amazon, advertising on there as well. Why? We want everybody that would possibly want to engage with this product. It's a high-end quality chocolate product to purchase it. And then what can they go do? Like now they become that fan. Now they're the ones that are talking about it to their friends, and more organic sales happening as well.
Are you seeing a lot of ad spend on TikTok decline and go to other platforms that are similar to TikTok? What are your thoughts on that aspect?
I think that you should advertise on platforms for as long as it works and as long as they're available. We have seen some big advertisers shift away from TikTok because of the potential that it could get blocked. That being said, most people are still advertising on it. And the reason why is people are still using it. People are still on the platform. And if there are eyeballs then you're going to want to show up there. And if you're like uncertain, should I use TikTok? Should I not use TikTok? Use it as long as it exists. I also think that Vines are going to come back. So Vine is owned by Twitter or X. I still can't call it X, man. I'm from the old school days where we still had to text in tweets. Yeah, I think that Vines are going to make a comeback, and that's going to be another platform to use. I also would say something that no one talks about, but this was just highlighted last week during the Super Bowl, is that the NFL is using Snapchat now, and they're advertising there to try and get more Gen Zers into football. And so there are all these platforms that are so wonderful and can massively help you, but you have to go try them out and play around with them. And spending a few $100 to go see if it works is totally worth it.
Next question I have for you is, how do you see artificial intelligence playing a role in how digital advertising is working, and also with the fact that now you've got Gen AI and chatbots and agentic AI?
Yeah, I mean, AI, we're at the tip of the iceberg on how it's going to be leveraged in a good way. I think that some of the things that are already happening on platforms is AI text writing is already happening, right? So if you go set up a Google ad or a Meta ad, they're going to give you ideas based off what you put in, some basic information automatically. One of my favorite things to do with AI, Chris, go into ChatGPT and educate ChatGPT about your business. Ask Chat so that it can understand what's going on, and then say, hey, I want to run a Valentine's Day ad for this product. Can you write some copy for me? How about you give me 5 variations? What I think it's doing already, Chris, is it's allowing brands and marketers to get more done at speed. And so whenever people are like, AI is just going to replace people, we're a long way off from that, way farther than the AI people would like to admit. What is happening right now, though, is AI is augmenting the human capacity to accomplish a lot of tasks. And so as we do that, what's going to end up happening, I believe, is we're going to get a lot more prolific in the amount of content that's being produced and advertised out on different platforms, in large part because people don't have to use their own brain and their own fingers all the time. They can work with AI to leverage and get a lot more done, a lot more output with about the same amount of work.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation. And finally, what I've noticed that you were talking about is just people calling themselves all these different things. But for listeners who are struggling with their current agency relationship, what questions should they be asking to evaluate whether that or not they have the right partner?
Chris, that is a remarkably good question. So one of the things that I like to ask is, hey, what are your plans for my brand next quarter? And if they can't answer pretty quickly with a response, then there's a challenge there, right? So when you say, hey, what are your plans for my brand next quarter? They should have some ideas. Doesn't mean they have to have it all planned out, but they should be going, I'm already thinking about Mother's Day, and Father's Day is coming up, and Easter's late this year. It's on the 20th of April. That's a thing that we're going to need to be aware of too. And here's some of the campaigns that we're thinking about. Like, there needs to be something already in the hopper. The other thing that I'd want to ask too is, what do you define as success to the agency? And I always like to do that before the relationship starts, right? So if the agency point of contact says our level of success is whatever you define as success, that's fine. Great. So I get to define it. So now I'm going to say, hey, my definition of success is a really high return on ad spend. If the agency comes back and says, we don't think that we can hit that, okay, then what is your expectation for success for my account then? And so it needs to be a thing where you understand at a high level what the goal is. And a lot of times what ends up happening is, and I've seen this over and over, the client says, I want to make more revenue. So give me leads, drive web traffic, make me sales. And they'll spend bukus of dollars to make that work. And then it's not profitable in the end. And so a lot of times, if you're the owner, the entrepreneur, the point of contact at your company, and you're working with an agency, you need to spell out and you need to figure out on your own end, what does a reasonable return look like? What has to happen? What do we have to hit for us just to make it? And then what would be above that would be a really good stretch goal that would make it so that we're making money and getting a new customer every time. Once you figure that out and you're able to communicate that with your agency and you set expectations, then you just hold them to the expectations. If they can't hit it, find somebody else.
Hmm. How can people find out more about you and check out your agency and connect with you?
Yeah. So you can find me on any social media platform at RealDVal, RealDVAL. On Instagram, TikTok, those are the ones that I'm most prolific on. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I usually write an article a week there and give updates about the advertising industry and what we're seeing. And I also give some insights of what other people can do. So you can find me there. And if you are interested, I've got an offer, Chris, for your listeners, if that's okay. If you are interested in having your ads audited because you're unsure, like Chris is saying, hey, is this any good? Do I have the right agency? We will do a risk-free audit for any one of your listeners. They can email me directly, dave.valentine@finch.com. And just mention the name of the podcast in the headline. I'll be sure to hook you up with that audit.
Excellent. Thanks so much for coming on and a very insightful conversation.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Been great.